Orthodox. I'm Melissa Bielatich-Davis, and we get together right here on Sunday nights to meet everyday Orthodox Christians. You know, here in North America, the Orthodox Church is kind of spread out, right? We're spread out geographically, for sure. It's a pretty big continent. And we're also spread out among different jurisdictions. We worship in different languages sometimes on different calendars. And so it's very possible, you know, that we don't know all of the Orthodox people in our community or in our town, right? In our location. We generally don't know a lot of people in other jurisdictions. So I think it's really a lovely thing for all of us to get together here on Sunday nights and just talk to one another. And so, you know, if you tune in every week, soon you'll have met someone from all different parts of the country and all different parts of Orthodoxy. And I think it's a very nice way to build up real unity in the church. So welcome. And let's see, I think tonight we do have Matushka Trudy Richter producing the show again. So if you have any questions tonight, you can actually leave a comment on our YouTube channel because we're streaming live on YouTube. You can actually see our faces there. It's the Ancient Faith Ministries channel. And if you have any questions, just leave a question right there and Matushka will make sure I know about it and we'll get you an answer. We'll tell the guest about it. But otherwise, so we're streaming on ancientfaith.com. We are on the AFR app. We're on AFM's Ancient Faith Ministries Facebook Live. And as I said, on YouTube. We're live on Sunday nights. And then, of course, the shows are also archived. So if you miss one, you can always come back and listen to the recorded episodes. Or if you're just finding us now, we literally have hundreds of recorded episodes. And so you can listen while you're running or cleaning the kitchen or whatever you're doing. So welcome. So I am excited to tell you a couple of things. One is that the Ancient Faith Singles Retreat registration is open. And I'm going to be at the Singles Retreat this year. And I think it's going to be really a lot of fun. If you've never been to an Ancient Faith retreat at all, they're all just beautiful opportunities to meet other people. There will be speakers. There will be activities. There's a lot of cool stuff to do. But there's also downtime to just get to know one another. And I'll tell you, I've made some of my favorite friends over the years I've actually met at Ancient Faith conferences, and I've heard the same from a lot of people. So I'm looking forward to meeting people there. And if you join us, you can come meet people there. And of course, it is a singles conference, so there will be a bunch of single people over 30. So you never know. Last year, I think people met and possibly got married. So you never know. Nobody can promise anything. But either way, you'll make some friends and you'll be a part of a really beautiful event. So that's the singles event. That's going to be store.ancientfaith.com, right? Go to the Ancient Faith store. In the menu, you can pick events and then it'll be listed there. You click right through and you can register and find more information. Okay. Tonight's guest is named Kirk Ries. And I met Kirk recently at the Yes conference. So you hear me, if you're a regular listener, you've heard me talk a lot about Yes. And of course, Yes is part of Focus North America, and Focus has all kinds of wonderful centers around the country. And Kirk is at Focus Cleveland at St. Herman House. He's the director there. He has over 30 years of social work experience. He's worked in public schools, foster care, business development, residential development, and he and his wife, Amy, have 3 adult children. They're at St. Innocent Orthodox Church. That's an OCA church in Olmsted Falls, Ohio. So without any further ado, Kirk, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, and welcome to our chapel here at St. Herman House in Cleveland, Ohio.
I love that. It's so beautiful. It's really nice. Well, I want to get into I want to hear all about St. Herman House, and I want everybody to hear what you guys are up to there and why you would need a chapel at all, what's going on. But first, Kirk, just tell us who you are. Like, where were you born? Where does your story start?
Where does my story start? I grew up in a small town here in northeastern Ohio, about an hour south of Cleveland, Canal Fulton, in Starkey County. And I have, my parents have been married for 62 years, and I have 3 brothers. I am 3 of 4, and so it's been we grew up there. You know, with boys, we played every sport coming and going, obviously, and had a lot of fun doing that. Had our parents. We grew up in a Protestant church, non-denominational church, there in Massillon, Ohio, nearby there. My parents were involved in a lot of things there, a lot of the support ministries and meals and youth groups and Sunday school and all that kind of stuff. So us boys learned service at a very young age, and has carried into adulthood with most of us. So
I bet.
yeah.
I bet. So that's neat. So were you always in the one place and you guys were in the one church the whole time? And like, it's very stable. It's really excellent, right? What a blessing to have such a stable
Yeah.
upbringing.
Yeah. We pretty much from a very young age were all in that same church until we most of us moved out, went to college, or joined the military, and then my parents kind of bounced around a little bit after that. But yeah, we were in the same church, same folks for years.
Oh, that's great. That's really nice. So growing up, did you feel like you had most of your friends in the church, or were a lot of them at school, or did all your church friends go to school with you anyway? So there wasn't really a difference, or what was it like?
I, it was a good mix. I think there was a mix of the folks that I was at church with on the weekend. But again, in the Massillon Canton area, there's all kinds of churches there, and so. But yeah, I mean, a majority. It's funny you say that because a majority of my friends growing up, I had a pretty eclectic group. Even though I played sports all the way through school, you would think that I had a certain group of friends, but from a very young age, I was kind of, I don't know, I just attracted uh, folks that had broken families, or just it was just really interesting that those were the people that were drawn to me in my teenage years, and so we had a really great group of I don't know, misfits, for lack of better words, in a lot of ways. They were who I graduated with, and a few of them that still communicate occasionally, through social media today. And so,
That's
yeah. So,
beautiful.
but yeah, at church, I mean, the great thing about the church was that my parents were the parents to many kids in that church, and vice versa. I had many houses that we would visit that I felt like were a second, third, or fourth home to me as well. With many of the families there, because we had a pretty solid youth group at that time.
Oh, that's excellent. It's such a good way to grow up with so many, like when there are a lot of different adults that you could go to if you had a problem, right? Like it's sometimes we need more than one opinion. Sometimes we're at an age where our parents' opinion is not helpful. So even if they're right, we just can't listen. So it's good. It's really a blessing to have all of that. I love that. So you
Yeah.
said, so different kinds of kids from like different kind of broken and difficult backgrounds were attracted to you. You say, were you also maybe you were a little bit attracted to them too, though, right? Like, what do you think it was that made it easy for you to connect with kids who struggled? Since I mean, you weren't really struggling in the same way. What do you think it was?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, I mean, there was actually, it's very interesting because I grew up in a house where my dad worked two or three jobs sometimes. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and that was kind of that end of the era of the stay-at-home mom. And they made a conscious choice when they got married that she was going to be at home and raise us, and that we weren't going to, we were going to have somebody at home when we got back from school. And my brothers and I joke about it even to this day, that we can probably count on both hands the number of times we got home from school and our mom wasn't home. That we had to figure out how to fend for ourselves or whatever. But so we didn't have a lot of money. We had to work. We all of us boys, we started mowing yards when we were 12, 13 years old, walking across town or riding a bike across town. My dad was the president of the baseball league, so I started lining baseball fields when I was like 14 years old and got paid like a couple bucks a field. And just the way to those were the things that I kind of I knew my parents didn't have a lot of money to do anything extra. And so if I wanted, the same shoes that the rest of the basketball team was playing, I knew I was going to have to go out and earn some money to be able to do that. So I think there was a lot of commonality in that. I think growing up and understanding, the struggles, it was part of the reason, when I went to college, I initially I thought I wanted to be a teacher. That was all I ever wanted to do, because I wanted to coach as well. And, and I got to, when I went to visit the college I went to, they were just starting a social work program. And I'm like, that sounds really cool. I didn't even know what a social worker was actually. And so I wound up getting my bachelor's degree in social work. And it just felt like the right fit. And ironically, my first job was working in the public school system where I was able to coach. And so I was a school social worker for about 10 years. And I wound up doing a lot of coaching. I coached just about every sport in high school. It was a very small community in Eastern Kentucky that I was able to do a lot of coaching there. And so that was a lot of fun as well. But I think it was just that, like I said, I know this is going to be hard to believe after everybody hears me talk for an hour, but I was actually a pretty quiet kid for the most part. I was the middle child. And you'll probably get this too. I always joke that I had ADHD before it was cool and medicated, because I just kind of like kept to myself and stayed busy, was always outside, doing things. But, it just, that was kind of seeking out attention. When there's four boys and there's only 6 years or so that separate, 6.5 years that separate the four of you, there's a lot going on in the teenage years. And so, I tell this story, my, because my dad worked so often, and we went through a lot of milk when we were growing up, and that's all we ever drank. And so my dad would be like, 9:45, we had to get to the grocery store by 10 o'clock to get some milk for morning. And I would be in my pajamas. I'd be like, can I ride with you? And it was just that moment of like, if I get 20 minutes in the car going to the grocery store and back, that was kind of my, minute to catch up. I remember doing that at, 11, 12 years old even, maybe. So,
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
it
love
was,
that. Yeah, my third and fourth kids they both do that. That's like the strategy for the younger ones, right? Is like, okay, these guys constantly have a big deal going on. So I'm just going to be over here quiet and helpful and see if I can sit alone with you for a minute in the car. That's fantastic. So, okay,
yeah.
so as you're growing up, was there a particular sport you were playing, or were you just playing all the sports, or was it baseball? Like, was that kind of your family thing?
You picked the one that I didn't. So
Because of your
I
dad.
did. I mean, as kids, my dad was a really good athlete. Played all three sports in high school. Of course, most guys did back when he was in high school. But yeah, he from a very young age, we were given an opportunity to try everything. Soccer, basketball, football, baseball, all that kind of stuff. And so I did play baseball all the way up until high school, but I played soccer and basketball were the two that I really focused on in high school. I say I run track, but I high jumped. That was all I ever did because I had a pretty good vertical. So but so yeah, I always joke that I never knew if we won a track meet because my uncle was the track coach and he said, you just got to come jump. I said, I'll come jump if I can leave because I don't want to watch people run in circles. And so I went and I high jumped and my parents took me home and I never knew if we won until the next morning. But I mostly focused on basketball and soccer there and actually played soccer all the way through college for 4 years and played basketball for 2 years in college at a small Christian school in Eastern Kentucky. So I went to a Protestant college there in Eastern Kentucky and played down there.
Well,
So
that's cool. That's very cool. All
yeah.
right. So you weren't kidding
And
around.
actually, two of my brothers played soccer with me at college for 3 years. So we had 3 years together that we all got to play soccer together. So that was really a lot of fun
That is
because
really
I was kind of in the middle. I played with my older brother on some teams, and then I played with my younger brother on other teams, depending upon what year it was. And so when my older brother kind of sat out after high school, and then he and I went to school the same year. And then my little brother came the following year. So we played from our sophomore to senior year. The three of us played together on the same soccer team. It was a lot of
that's really neat. Did you guys live together as well?
fun. The first semester, my one brother and I were roommates, I think. But we were done with each other. We were ready to be like separate. We were at the same school, but we definitely needed to, needed some separation
Yeah.
and that. But yeah, and then I wound up getting married after my sophomore year, the first
Oh,
time,
wow.
and so I was living off campus after my sophomore year.
Right.
there.
Was that common there, being a small Protestant school in East Kentucky? I feel like there's probably a lot of encouragement to get married and,
Oh,
send those.
yeah. The ongoing joke was that it was Kentucky Christian College, which is Kentucky Christian University now, and it started as a Christian Normal Institute, which was for preachers or to train ministers in the Protestant Church, and then ironically, the next uh, degree was in administrative assistant or some kind of like typing because they wanted to get some women there. And so the ongoing for years joke was is that most of the women were there to get their MRS degree. And
Right.
so, it,
Yeah, there are some schools like
but
that though, right? Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So I think there was a little bit of a pressure in that. And, uh, and unfortunately or fortunately that, we got married young and kind of just grew apart and that, and then was divorced at pretty young as well. And so that was,
Yeah,
it
pretty
happens.
young. I
So,
mean, were you about 19 or 20 when you
yeah,
got
I
married?
was 19 when I got married and
Yeah.
so, yeah. Yeah.
I'm grateful
So,
not to be stuck with anything I picked when I was 19. I get that. It's definitely like, it's that age though, right? Like you think you're an adult.
yeah,
It seems like you're an adult. All signs point to it. And yet there we are. But,
yeah.
all right. So what did you end up doing? Did you go straight out of college into the job in the public school?
Yeah. I started working uh, as a kind of an assistant for 1 year, and then I was a director of it was a youth service program. We worked with middle school and high school students and their families, and kind of did. It was basically school social work. So, it was part of the Kentucky Education Reform Act back in the late '80s, early '90s, where Kentucky ranked pretty low in education, and they invested a lot of money in schools. And the idea behind it was that if every kid got to school clean, fed, with all the supplies they needed, then they had just as good a chance to get an education as the kid sitting next to them. So that was kind of our mission, was to make sure that families had running water or kids had clothes or they had food. We made sure they had food. And we worked with the families there doing, and then supported, we did a lot of, student programs and assemblies and all that kind of stuff too. But that was what I did for about 10 years there in the public schools in Eastern Kentucky. And then moved back to kind of more down near Worcester, Ohio, after I got remarried, and we can tell you that story too. But and started working in residential treatment for young adults or young teenagers.
Oh, wow. So residential treatment, is that like addiction treatment, or is that just mental health treatment, or what is that? Or both?
Primarily mental health. I mean, a lot of the kids had addiction issues, but it was more the mental health that were kids that were in county custody or couldn't live with their parents and needed residential programming. So,
Okay.
with the goal of getting them back to a family member or into a foster care or something
Right. Getting them a more, it's kind of a stable situation, a home
like
situation. So, okay. So how did you meet your second wife? What was that?
that. I didn't skip past that, did I? This is a great story, and she's listening, so hopefully I get all the details right. We met on a blind date, actually. Her boss and I knew each other from some committees working in the school system together. I had a friend who taught the school, who had a little country um, concert place. His parents bought the old roller rink in town, and him and his band played every Saturday night. And I went there to line dance, and so did her boss. And she said, "I'm going to bring somebody to meet you." And she did, and we met. We danced for a while. We went another place and came back and sat in the car from about 2:30 in the morning until about 6:30 and just talked about our previous relationships, what we were looking for, what we weren't looking for, and we literally just sat in a gas station parking lot with the guy coming out sweeping up cigarette butts every 30, 40 minutes to make sure that we weren't doing anything, but we sat there for a long time and basically ended the evening with her saying, "Listen, I have two kids, and if you don't want that to be part of your life, then I think we have obviously some connection, but if you don't want that, then I would prefer you not call me back. And so I think it was probably about, I don't know, 12 hours later, I called her back and asked her out again. So, and here we are 23 years later. So we've been married 22 years now. And so it's been great. So
That's wonderful. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think so often it's a very good sign when a first conversation goes on for hours and hours and hours, right? Like that's a pretty good sign that you're in the right place. So, how old were her kids when you guys got married?
they were 5 and 4. So they were pretty young, and and I was kind of like, just we're ready, we're family, we're moving on, and it was great. And then a couple years in, she said, I think I want to have another baby, and so we did, and so now we have Hillary, who you met, I think, in Austin,
Yeah,
um, and so now I have the 3 kids, and so it's
that's
great.
wonderful.
But
That's
they're not kids anymore. I'm going to get in trouble for that one. None of them are kids anymore. They're all
I
adults.
know. It's hard to say. It doesn't sound right though, right? I have several young adults
Yes.
that are my children. Like there's no,
Right.
it makes,
Right.
nobody has young adults. Nobody has that. That doesn't
Right.
work.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that. No, but,
Yeah.
so that's neat. Was that a big adjustment for you not having kids and then marrying someone who did? Was that, because I mean, it's, there's a lot that we learn in those early years, right? There's a lot to take on. Of course, they were only 5 and 4, so it's not like you were leaping into teenagers. Although working in residential care, like, I mean, you
Yeah.
had some experience with kids.
Well, actually, we went together. That was when we came back to Ohio. Was when we came back together to work in residential as a co-parent team. But yeah, to back to your question though, them being 5 and 4 was probably an advantage because there was still a lot of development going on, and there was still a lot of things that I was able to do and be respectful of what she was doing, raising children, trying to learn how we were going to do that together, what my role was in that, and their dad was kind of in and out of the picture early, and then kind of just was away, which made things a lot easier in a lot of ways. For me, maybe not for
Yeah,
them, in a lot of
exactly.
ways. It's and but I think that and from a and it was 3 or 4 years when Hillary was born. They were 9 and 8, I believe, and that was kind of where the big question came in, because they kind of had always called me Kirk in a lot of ways. And then when the new baby was coming, it was like, how are we going to do this? And so that was when I kind of started getting the dad and that kind of stuff, and being called that. And that, I think that was probably the time where it kind of felt like, okay, we're in this, and it's great. And then having little Hillary, they were both so great with her when she was little, and watching them all grow up together, and they have such a great relationship. Even to this day as adults, they all have really great relationships, and it's beautiful.
Oh, that's wonderful. So your wife then also was working in the residential facility when you guys went over. So is she also a social worker?
Yes, she actually is now finishing her master's degree as a behavior analyst. I'm going to mess them up, and she's going to get mad at me again. No, it's
Oh,
behavior
so she's very
analysis.
mean. That's what you're saying, huh? So you've married a mean
Yes,
woman.
no,
Okay.
no, no. There's too many B's, too many A's, and too many C's, and whatever she's trying to. But she's doing a great job. But yeah, she was working for a social service agency when we met, working with elderly folks, making sure they were getting their meds and that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, she has had kind of a social work background. Went through that. Started working after we homeschooled for a big portion of our kid's life. My oldest, Jared, Father Peter, now, he was homeschooled all the way through high school. Lana, the oldest one, she went to school as a freshman and to public school. And then Hillary went in eighth grade. And so after that, she had homeschooled for almost 20 years straight. And then all of a sudden, everybody was gone. And so she was able to find something as a behavior therapist working with young kids on the autism spectrum and their families, and doing parent education, and teaching parents how to manage their kids, and help them build skills and that kind of stuff. And so now she's working on her master's degree, where she can actually do a lot more of the clinical stuff of writing treatment plans and that kind of stuff. So it's really kind of cool. So she's loving it.
Very cool. Oh, she
Yeah,
sounds neat. She sounds
yeah,
great. But so
she's awesome.
I bet she is. But okay, so the two of you, young married, kind of going through this, and then you're in Ohio. Did you stay then in the same place once you moved? Because you started in Kentucky, you moved back to Ohio. Did you stay there? Did you guys end up moving around quite a bit?
Yeah, we moved around a little bit. We went and wound up in more of the Cleveland area after we left the residential. I started working in the foster care area, and was here. And that's kind of where, in a lot of ways, our journey to Orthodoxy started. Um, when we got to Cleveland, I had never heard of Orthodoxy. She was born and raised in Eastern Kentucky, had never really heard of it. And when we got together, we did what we kind of affectionately called church shopping for a while, and visited a lot of different denominations, and just trying to find what was right. And just never anything felt really like the right thing. There was just the focus just always seemed wrong. And being the academic that my wife is, she started looking for new churches in Cleveland, and this thing Orthodox started popping up, and there was Greek Orthodox, and there was Russian Orthodox, and there was Serbian Orthodox. And we're like, what is this? And she come across, I don't know if it was a blog or something back in the day, where somebody said, if you're interested in Orthodoxy, find Father Hopko's Rainbow series and go read that, and that'll be the thing. And so, being a homeschool mom and wife, she went to the library and found a copy of those books. And I came home from work one day, and she goes, I think I found what we're looking for. And and that was kind of like just a turning point for us in a lot of ways. And we started that beautiful journey. She and the kids were a little ahead of me. I was a slow learner, slow adapter, but because they were homeschooled, she was able to. The first service that she went to was, I believe it was Lazarus. I'm probably going to be wrong on that, but they went to a Wednesday morning service at St. Innocent Orthodox Church, and that's the only parish we've ever been to, or that we've ever been members of. That was the first place that we went 17-ish years ago. And it was just, and it was one of those things where, like, I think, God knew we were searching for something, and really, St. Innocent was English speaking. They had midweek services, which she and the kids were really interested in. And from the first moment they walked in, it was like, this felt like the place that we needed to be. And and I think God knew we needed it not to be difficult. I think it was like, it took us a long way around to get there, but once we found, the Orthodox faith, it just felt right, for all of us. Again, I was a little slow. My mom was born and raised Catholic, so I heard all the horror stories about Catholicism, and to me, I equated everything to that until I kind of tried to, observe and learn kind of what the differences were in that. And my mom was, she's like, that looks like that looks like Catholic Church, and so, but anyhow,
Well, and
so
those things are hard,
that,
right? Because and you may not even know exactly why, but you just have these like built-in resistance, and it's almost like a suspicion of Mary and the saints. And it sounds crazy when
Mhm.
you're Orthodox for a while, because it's like, I say that to cradle Orthodox people. They're like suspicious about Mary. I'm like, yeah, what's she up to?
Yeah,
Why is everybody talking to her all the time? But, but it's
yeah,
true, and it's hard to fight. It's It's a big thing to fight, but well, that's neat. Okay, I want to hear more about this, and I want to hear more about how I'm always amazed when people come into the church with kids, and the kids also embrace it. I just think that that's so beautiful and lucky, and the Holy Spirit has to be involved with that. But so we're going to take a very short break, and then we'll come back, and I want to hear all about it. We'll be right back with Kirk Ries.
Waiting and Dating by Lillian Andrews examines the dynamics of singleness and dating from an Orthodox Christian perspective. It explores why, when, how, and who to date, while also tackling topics like purity, sexuality, temptation, and repentance. Available now at store.ancientfaith.com. Again, that is store.ancientfaith.com.
Welcome back to Everyday Orthodox. We're here tonight with Kirk Ries. He's the director of St. Herman House in Cleveland, Ohio. It's a focus center. And so we're going to hear all about that. And actually, the story is kind of working its way over there now because, Kirk, you were just talking about when your family discovered St. Innocent Church and how beautifully that went. And I really am curious because how old were the kids when you found the church?
It wasn't too long after Hillary. Hillary might have been 2 or something like that. So 17 years ago. So the other ones were 11, 10, and they were able to go all the time again because we had the midweek services at St. Innocent, and they really just kind of took to it. Jared started serving behind the altar almost immediately. And he thought that was the coolest thing because nobody else came on Wednesday. No other servers came on Wednesday. So it was basically him and Father Michael Butler behind the altar. And it was really, obviously the deacon, I think, was there, but for actually some of the time. But anyhow, so he was able to do that. So from a very young age, he really, just kind of took to serving in the church. The girls have always been, part of what they're doing. Them and Amy, and Jared as well, had made multiple trips to Transfiguration Monastery, which is less than 2 hours from where we're at, and so they loved going over there and visiting Mother Christopher and all of the nuns there. And so it just, we got involved. My wife and I started a community meal. The church really didn't have a lot of, the outreach at the time was our pierogi sale, or our bake sale. And so we started a community meal and got all kinds. We had so many people that wanted to volunteer at the community meal that we had to do it twice a month. And we had to split into teams because we just had so many people interested in doing that. At one time, we were serving between 85 and 100 people at our meal, not counting the volunteers, twice a month. And it was just really a great thing that our family did. All of the kids came and volunteered. I have pictures of, Hillary used to love to come and help me with that. She would help us. I have a picture of her washing potatoes at the sink to get ready to make baked potatoes. But we signed people in every day or every time because we had to send stuff to the food bank. And she would crawl up on my lap and she would mark people off on the list and check them in as they were coming in. And it was so sweet because it was a good thing for her and I. It was just really a fun thing that we got to do. But to see all the smiles on the faces of the people that come to the meal, of her being involved at such a young age. And then and it wasn't just our kids, we had a lot of young people that would come and they would set the table. They would put the silverware out. They would put the appetizers out. It was such a beautiful thing to see so many people and so many young people that were there to serve. And so we started that. And then after doing that for a couple of years, we didn't feel like we were busy enough. So we started doing a mobile pantry. through the Cleveland Food Bank, and we got that started and had so many volunteers, and we do that about 6 months out of the year, and that continues even to this day. We kind of gave up when we kind of gave up the meal. That's about 6 or 7 years ago now, and as things got busier with work and that kind of stuff. But it was great that our kids always wanted to be there. We actually we lived right across the street from the church for a minute. We had rented a house, and so it was great to that our kids got up and they would walk across the street and go to church even if we couldn't go or something like that. And, so it was really great. It was beautiful.
That is really neat. And it's so good, I think, for a community to have. And I mean, you're kind of joking about the pierogi sale, but really a lot of our Orthodox communities, especially, a while back, but even today, just have not had a lot of structured outreach. And it tends to be, though, I like to say, if you go to a funeral for someone, in their 80s, you'll start hearing all these stories about all the people they fed and somebody's mortgage they paid. And it's not that there's not charity in the church, but that there hasn't been a lot of structure for it. And it is such a blessing to have the kids involved, and they do get excited about it. It's really beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the cool things was that, and actually kind of making, I guess, maybe the switch into St. Herman's was because my wife and I had so much of that wanting the kids to do volunteer work, we were looking for what are the Orthodox places in Cleveland we can go volunteer. St. Herman House was one of the first places that we came to volunteer. And they would do services here, and Jared would serve behind the altar here. He would help Father John Henry with the services. Hillary, I tell this story on her too, is that she was so young at the time that she would help serve at the door where we hand out meals, and she would grab an apple and she would hand it out the door to people and would never look at them in the eye. She would just hand it out the door. But that was kind of like her first real volunteer thing. Over a period of time, she finally started making eye contact, and it's the same thing. Like people just get that response of we tonight here at our meal we had a Cub Scout group here. And kids that are probably between 8 and 11 years old, and they help serve, and it's so interesting to see the response of the community that we serve when we have young people that are here. It's really just fantastic.
Yeah, I think when people don't have the opportunity to interact with young people much, it's such a delight, right? To just see that energy. And it's beautiful for the kids too, because I think when you get to see them serve the first few times, they're so surprised that it's such a joy, right? Because it sounds like a chore, like, oh, I'm going to come and I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this work. And then they get there and they find out like, oh, this is the best kind of work. Like this is joyful work. That's neat. Mm-hmm. That's really neat. So tell me, what exactly does St. Herman's do? So, and what was it? And what was it doing when you guys first got there? What's the whole mission?
Yeah. So St. Herman's, and I'll go back to the starting point. Was created in 1977 by a Catholic nun, Mother Mary Blossom, and an Orthodox priest, Father Gregory Reynolds. Bought this house and wanted to serve meals to the impoverished in the Cleveland area. They had in this room next door, they had 3 tables set up, and Mother Mary would start cooking, and Father Gregory would go out and find 15 people or however many chairs they had. He would bring them in, they would feed them, they would see if they had any other needs they could meet, give them a coat, give them socks, whatever, send them on their way, clean up. Mother Mary would start cooking again. Father Gregory would go find more people to eat. And they just did that all day long. And then a little later, Father John Henry, Father Vladimir, they kind of came in and became a monastery in a lot of ways. And they were here for quite a while. Father John Henry was part of St. Herman's for about 30 years. And then, and I actually, so when I came here, they were basically I don't think they have as many people as they did now as resident as we do now, but they were basically serving meals, meeting needs, giving clothes, food, that kind of stuff. And then I started serving on kind of Father John Henry's advisory board back at that time. And then in about 2012, we started trying to figure out what it was going to take to run this place, and we started talking to Focus North America, and we developed kind of the Orthodox churches kind of came back together a little bit, and we started to be planful about how we might be able to do this. Lutheran Metropolitan Ministries kind of helped run things for a little bit, and then in January of 2013, Focus officially kind of took over, I believe, and that's when Paul Finley came in as the director, and he was here for about 10 years, and I continued on the advisory board with Paul and the rest of the folks for off and on for about 10 years. So now the way that what we do now is Focus. I don't know how many people are familiar with this, so I'll do my little elevator speech on Focus.
Explain just in case.
Focus is a double acronym. It's the Fellowship of Orthodox Christians United to Serve. And then it also is food, occupation, clothing, understanding, and shelter. And so to be a Focus center, which we now have 11 centers across the country under the Focus umbrella, and Focus is an affiliate member of the Assembly of Bishops. So that's a pretty cool recognition that we have. But to be a Focus center, you have to provide service in one of those 5 areas. Most of the Focus centers are doing meals and clothing. We are the only center at this time that does all 5. And it's a little, I joke a lot that it's controlled chaos a lot around here, some days, because, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's such, we're so blessed here. So we serve 3 meals a day to the community, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Then we also we do clothing distributions a couple of days a week. We get clothes donated. We put stuff on outside on the pavilion, and then we try to find individual things as people ask for a certain pair of pants or certain size pants, underwear, those kind of things. Personal hygiene stuff. We do food bags the last 5 days of the month to single parents. And they can come and get, some standard food bags. We're getting ready. We just got a donation of 55 turkeys on Friday. Somebody called and said, "Hey, we have 55 turkeys. Can you get rid of them before Christmas?" And we're like, "We'll do our best." And so we started today, and hopefully by Wednesday they're all gone. So the shelter part of it, we have 2 buildings. The one that I'm sitting in right now is our main house. We can have up to 28 guys stay in this house here. And then we have the building 3 houses down that is a transitional living program, which have individual rooms. The guys here have anywhere from 1 to 3 roommates. Those are individual rooms. They share a bathroom. That's for guys that have 6 months of sobriety, a verified sobriety, and a source of income. So they could be working, retire, have a retirement, have disability, or some other form of income. There's a program fee associated with that, and that kind of helps them get back on their feet. A lot of them have evictions on their record, so it gives them an opportunity to kind of reestablish a rental history. I can sign a landlord agreement that they pay their program on fee on time and that kind of stuff. But the guys here, our shelter is a little bit different than what you see in the movies. You see in the movies where everybody shows up at 6 o'clock, hope you get a bed, and then they funnel you down the line. Our guys stay here, and we do an interview process. They have an application we fill out, and we do an interview with them. And there's 2 caveats for staying here. One is that you help us do everything we need to do around here. You help with meals. You help take care of this building. We have a garden. We have a yard that needs mowed, and we have this big house to take care of. We're helping with donations. We don't have any paid staff overnight, so some guys stay up all night to kind of keep an eye on the perimeter. And then we have guys that come back late from work that they have to let in, and that kind of stuff as well. So the one caveat is that they have to be involved in what we're doing every day in the ministry of what we do. And the other part is that they are actively involved with our case manager. Which we're currently searching for. If anybody's interested, I'm doing some interviews, so get your resume in fast. I had to put that plug in here. The thing that I tell the guys when they first come in and their first involvement with the case manager is that they have to take care of their mental health and their physical health. because so many of them are coming from the street. They're coming from a recovery center or something like that. Because I tell them, if you don't have your mental health and your physical health managed or under control, you're never going to be able to sustain employment, and you're never going to be able to sustain an apartment or a house. And so if you can get those two things, and we can help you get yourself, really honestly, the first thing that I tell them is get your feet under you, get here, get comfortable, settle in. Don't try to do too much. Just get some good sleep, and then let's come up with a plan on how you can address your mental health, your physical health, and how you can be involved here. And the thing that I always love is like the first morning that one of the guys comes downstairs, and they have energy, and they're smiling, and they have a shower and clean clothes, and it'd be like, how'd you sleep last night? He's like, that's the best night of sleep I've had in months. And that just, sometimes that's really just like, a place to finally lay your head. And so that's kind of the difference in what we do here. Um, the great thing about it is that we do have the chapel here. We have some folks who get together every morning at 7 o'clock, and they do morning prayers together. And then at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we kind of stop everything that we're doing. And there's about anywhere from 6 to 9 or 10 of us that will come in here to the chapel and read the ninth hour prayers, or kind of a conglomeration of prayers around the ninth hour prayers. We have a list of folks that come and volunteer or send prayer requests, and we pray for those folks individually. And it really is, at the end of the day, when it's been so hectic of donations coming in, and the community, and meeting all of their needs, it's just like all day. The doorbell, I said I feel like Pavlov's dog with the doorbell, because every time it rings, I'm like, but at 4 o'clock, we know that about 12 to 15 minutes, they were just going to be quiet, and we're going to refocus on the evening, and we're going to gather ourselves and kind of reset the evening. And it's such a, just an amazing, 15 or minutes or so of just like being prayerful, being thoughtful, knowing that people are praying for us, but being able to pray for the folks that come here and help us and do this. We're on pace this year to serve about 62,000 meals just here at St. Herman House. And you know what the cool thing about that is? Take a while. My wife hates when I do this. Take a wild guess on it about how much our annual food budget is to serve 60,000 meals.
Oh, I can't even begin to guess that. I mean, it's hundreds of thousands of dollars probably, right? How is it?
Less than $5,000.
Are you
less than $5,000?
donations?
I am not kidding.
What is it?
Donations.
Wow.
Donations. We get some grants through the food bank, but almost all of our food is donated. We have churches that will cook food, bring it down here, and serve meals. And most of them will bring enough to know that there's at least enough to serve dinner, and we probably will reheat it and serve it for lunch the next day. We get Baldwin Wallace College, their cafeteria calls every once in a while and said, hey, we have some stuff left over from an event. And they'll bring, stuff, and we'll put it together with other things that we get donated. It's just like the things the miracles, and I know, it's kind of that we see here every day with stuff like that. It's just mind blowing. Of like 2 weeks ago, we were sitting here, and the one guy, we have a full-time cook, but he's off 2 days a week, and one of the residents is currently helping us in the kitchen. And he goes, Kirk, can I get the cooler key? I'm gonna go see what I can gather to put together to cook for dinner, what we have down there to cook. As we were grabbing the cooler key, the phone rings. One of the caterers in town called us and said, hey, we had this big banquet last night. We have a ton of food left. Can we come drop it off? They brought it or it was a luncheon that day because it was still warm. And so we brought it in. Yeah, it was still warm, and brought it in. And that's what he served for dinner that day, because it was just, it was one of those days where, and that stuff happens all the time. And it's such a, the guys even talk about that, like, we've had folks from the community say, "Oh man, my cane or my walking stick broke," because a lot of them have physical disabilities too. Do you guys have one? within a day or two, somebody will donate a cane that somebody can use. Or I mean, it's just
That's neat.
it's so amazing. It's such a beautiful thing that we have here.
That's right. God, he literally provides, and we don't know it if we're not relying on him, right? If we're
Yeah.
just providing for ourselves all the time, we don't even notice how much he just comes through and whispers to someone what to do next. So we have a question for you on YouTube, and it's your greatest fear come true. It's your son, Father Peter, and but it's not a deep theological question. You're going to be okay. All right, you ready?
Okay.
He has two questions for you, and they're great questions. One is, what are opportunities that come with a homeless shelter that's also an overtly Orthodox space? Like, what are the special opportunities there because of that? And then the other question is, why is it important that the Orthodox get involved in social work? Because as much as we feel like we even know the answer to that, we're not doing it very much. So
Right.
tell me about that.
Well, the opportunities here are that we do have monthly liturgies. Here, the local clergy association has been phenomenal about filling in and coming and serving and exposing guys to a Greek, liturgy and partially in Greek, or in other languages that are really really kind of cool. We have again churches that come and participate in prayers with us. We have a garden at a kid from one of the local churches put together kind of a prayer walk with icons of some of the various North American saints out there with their little short bio or story about them. And so it just really, I think it just, as much as we can expose folks to the Orthodox faith, it's great because I'll be honest with you. I've come in here like during lunch, and I've always told folks they're more than welcome to come in the chapel. But I think one of the best things that happen to me during the day is when I come in here to get something, and I'll open up the door, and one of the guys is just sitting in here, has no, may not know anything about Orthodoxy, but they know that sitting in that chair right there, looking at this altar means something, right? That there's something special right here. And I think that, and I find that multiple times a day. To go back to the social work question, it's such an interesting thing because actually the Father Peter had a couple years experience. I know it's a surprise that his mom and I were both social workers, and he wound up being in the social services field for a couple years, right? But one of the things I've been a career social worker. Like I said, I've got 30 years of working in the field, and I always felt like that my job was kind of an extension of my faith wherever I happened to be at that time in my life. And that I was taught to take care of people. I was taught to do what was right and treat them how how God expected you to treat them, right? And I think that, but coming to work at St. Herman House has just, it's so amazing to be able to do that and not be afraid to share the faith, because when you're in the world as a social worker, it's hard to bridge that gap, and you're really encouraged not to in a lot of ways. But here, it's what we are, it's who we are. And I think that the Orthodox Church specifically, I think that there's, with so many converts who have come from Protestant background where the Protestants were always better about serving their neighbors and having food pantries and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that there's been a shift in the last probably 10 or 12 years of like converts of bringing that to the Orthodox Church. And it's great. I mean, we have so many of the we have 28 or 29 Orthodox parishes in the greater Cleveland area. And a huge portion of them are supporting us, some financially. Many of them are down here monthly serving meals or volunteering to help serve meals or bringing food, bringing donations, collecting things for us, all of that. And it's fantastic that it's the Orthodox Church, but we have such an ecumenical ministry here. I have so many Catholic parishes, Presbyterian churches, and just Methodists that bring their whole parish down here, their whole church down here to serve as well. And it's such a great amazing. We had one of the local Catholic parishes that just made we were trying to collect up some things for our guys at Christmas. They called and asked what we wanted, and they just brought me a whole bunch of gift cards that we could give out to the guys for stuff, and they're down here to serve all the time as well. So it's just I think that we did a video recently for one of our fundraising events, and it was about volunteering. And I got a lot of people from various backgrounds that kind of spoke on that. But one of the things that kind of came out in that is that multiple of the folks that were interviewed say, I think I needed St. Herman's more than St. Herman's needed me. I needed to be down here. I needed to see people, and I needed to see what you were doing, because I was missing something. And once somebody volunteers here, they almost always come back. And there is, before they leave, they're talking with Albert that keeps the volunteer schedule, and say, when do you have another opening? I can come start lunch. I'm going to bring my brother. I'm going to bring my sister. Those kind of things. So I think and especially, and I know I talk about my family a lot, but the younger you can encourage your kids to get out and do some volunteer, like we were talking earlier. I think that seeing you and your parents do that, or them seeing you do that as parents and bringing them and being engaged and being involved, is so key. And if you model that behavior, then I think that the generations to come in the Orthodox Church are going to be blessed for it. I really do.
Absolutely. Well, and it is such a beautiful experience, right? Like when you're really just joyfully serving wholeheartedly in a Christian context, right? That there's such a communion that happens there. And it's just, I think many times when people come the first time, I'm sure they're very surprised that they sort of just feel the Holy Spirit there, right? That it's just, it's beautiful. Well, thank God that you're doing it. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, when people come to volunteer, this chapel is the first place that we bring them, because it underlines why we're here and what we're doing. And this is the first place, and this is where we share the story of St. Herman House and St. Herman himself, and why this house was named after him, because he was known for his hospitality. And it's so much easier to do what we do when you know why we're doing it, and who, because of being him as our patron saint and his story.
And he's so neat. He's really a neat saint. That's wonderful. I want to tell the audience, if you're interested in looking up Focus North America, the website's focusnorthamerica.org. And there's a page on there for get involved, and they'll show you how you can donate to support St. Herman House and other focus centers. They'll show you how you can volunteer, different sorts of things that you could do. And they also have something called local initiatives, so that if there's not anything going on in your town, you can talk to Focus, and they'll help you figure something out, maybe even for your whole parish to be able to volunteer together at an existing thing, or, maybe one of these days you'll graduate and be able to create something as beautiful as St. Herman's House, because it's really, what a blessing. What a blessing to the whole community, I think, to the Orthodox especially, but also to everyone. And it's wonderful too, I'm sure you've had people who've discovered Orthodoxy through St. Herman's House, but even those who don't maybe end up in the church, what a beautiful face you put forth for Christianity. And when they think of Christians, this is what they'll think of. Thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, we definitely have had a few, and it's hard not to be involved and at least ask questions. I have a couple guys right now that have been more interested in Orthodoxy than a lot of the guys that have come through here a long time. So I'm excited for them. It's been great. So.
Well, Kirk, thank you so much for coming on the program and telling us all about it. It's a beautiful program, and it's been wonderful getting to know you as well.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad we got to meet last month and talk, and I appreciate the invite and giving us an opportunity to share my story, but also share the story of St. Herman House and Focus and what we do. So I appreciate it very much.
Oh, it's wonderful. And again, it's focusnorthamerica.org if you guys want to check it out. All right. And thank you to our audience for joining us, and come back next Sunday night and we'll meet another Everyday Orthodox Christian. Good night, guys.